The $1 Million Heist: How Black Women's Education and Labor Are Systematically Devalued. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for what I hope will be not just a conversation, but a wake up call, a disruption to comfortable narratives about success, opportunity, and the American dream. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Miesha Villagomez, a force of nature whose groundbreaking research has shattered illusions about workplace equity in America. Miesha isn't just collecting data, she's igniting a revolution in how we understand the economic violence inflicted on Black women daily. Her meticulous research has forced boardrooms across the nation to confront their complicity in what can only be described as a systematic theft of Black women's economic potential. Through her fearless advocacy, she's giving voice to millions whose labor has been chronically undervalued and whose dreams have been quietly taxed by a system never designed for their success. We've all heard the story, haven't we? The one that promises if you just get that degree, work those extra hours, pay your dues, success will inevitably follow. It's the American promise, the pathway to prosperity supposedly available to anyone willing to work hard enough. But what happens when you follow every rule, check every box, exceed every expectation, and still find yourself systematically devalued? What happens when the goalposts keep moving specifically for you while remaining firmly in place for others? This is the daily reality facing millions of Black women across America, and it fundamentally challenges everything we claim to believe about merit, opportunity, and justice. Here's the truth that should stop you in your tracks. Despite remarkable increases in educational attainment and workforce participation among Black women, the wage gap hasn't just persisted, it remains devastatingly wide. Black women with professional degrees, women who have invested years of their lives and tens of thousands of dollars in advanced education, still earn just 59 cents for every dollar their white male counterparts make. Let that sink in for a moment. 59 cents on the dollar. Not because of differences in qualifications, not because of differences in experience, not because of differences in commitment or capability, but because of a system that has consistently, persistently, and insidiously devalued Black women's contributions at every level. This isn't just an inconvenient disparity. According to the Institute for Women's Policy Research that Miesha highlighted in our conversation, a full time working Black woman stands to lose over $1 million due to the wage gap throughout her career compared to white men. $1 million. That's not a rounding error. That's not a slight disadvantage. That's theft on a massive scale. That's a home that will never be purchased. That's education for children that will require crushing debt instead of family resources. That's retirement security that evaporates. That's generational wealth that never materializes. This isn't ancient history. This is happening right now in companies that proudly tout their diversity statements, in industries that claim meritocracy, in a society that insists opportunity is equal for those who work hard enough. The data tells a different story, a story of promises broken specifically for Black women who have done everything right. Despite decades spent increasing educational attainment and workforce participation rates since civil rights reforms, economic parity remains stubbornly, deliberately elusive. The IWPR's research has influenced policy debates on Capitol Hill regarding equal pay laws, but the gap persists because the problem isn't just about policy, it's about power, perception, and deeply ingrained patterns of whose labor we value and whose contributions we dismiss. Some might argue we've made progress. And yes, there have been incremental gains. But when we look closer at the data, a more troubling picture emerges. Washington Technology's annual survey tracks executive diversity at top federal contractors. Their findings: only 19 out of 1,143 C suite positions were held by Black women, just 1.6%, as recently as June 2025. This is despite increases in total female executives overall. What's particularly alarming is that since the racial reckoning of 2020, many firms have seen stalled momentum on representation goals as diversity initiatives faded amid political backlash against DEI programs nationwide. Some companies improved gender parity broadly, but failed to sustain focus on intersectionality, the crucial intersection of race and gender that shapes Black women's unique experiences. These findings underscore why diversity efforts that don't specifically address racial and gender biases simultaneously will never create true equity. Numbers alone don't tell the full story of belonging, advancement opportunity, or equitable compensation. This isn't just about individual careers. These disparities have profound generational consequences. The cumulative impact of lost wages over $1 million across a career limits wealth building opportunities for entire families and communities. When we talk about closing these gaps, we're talking about our collective future and the kind of society we want to build. But there is hope in action. Miesha shared the inspiring work of the National Council of Negro Women, led by Dr. Shaven Arlene Bradley, since early 2024. The NCNW launched powerful economic justice campaigns after observing symbolic erasures like dismantling BLM Plaza near their DC headquarters, a physical manifestation of the broader attempt to erase hard won progress. Facing both cultural erasure and economic instability, that heightened feelings of disempowerment among members and community leaders. They responded with nationwide organizing around voter engagement, economic literacy, and coalition building across generations. The results: a drop in unemployment among Black women, down by over 300,000 between January and March 2025, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and renewed advocacy visibility. The NCNW has been pivotal since its founding nearly a century ago, but recent years brought renewed attacks on civil rights legacies requiring fresh activism approaches. They grew grassroots membership, fostered intergenerational dialogue, and achieved measurable employment gains within months. This set an example for other community based groups, fighting both cultural erasure and financial marginalization simultaneously. Their work demonstrates that change is possible when we approach these issues with intention, persistence, and strategic community organizing. But it also highlights how much work remains to be done. From my conversation with Miesha, three key insights emerged that demand our attention. First, systemic inequities persist regardless of individual effort, even as more Black women reach higher levels in their careers. They continue to face wage gaps and underrepresentation in leadership roles. This isn't about individual shortcomings. It's about systems that were never designed for equity in the first place. The problem isn't Black women's choices, it's a system rigged against them at every turn. Second, representation matters, but progress is slow and fragile. While there have been gains for women overall in executive positions, Black women still hold less than 2% of top roles at major companies. This is a stark reminder that diversity efforts must be intentional, sustained, and protected from political backlash. They cannot be the first budget item cut when times get tough or political winds shift. Third, economic disparities have generational consequences that ripple through entire communities. The cumulative impact of lost wages limits wealth building opportunities, not just for individual women, but for their children, their grandchildren, and their communities. This isn't just about fairness today, it's about equity for generations to come. As Miesha emphasized, these realities can feel overwhelming, but they also present opportunities for meaningful change if we're willing to confront uncomfortable truths and take decisive action. For organizations, this means moving beyond performative diversity initiatives towards substantive change. It means examining hiring practices, promotion pathways, and compensation structures with an intersectional lens. It means creating cultures where Black women can thrive, not just survive. For policymakers, it means strengthening equal pay legislation and enforcement mechanisms. It means investing in educational and economic opportunities in underserved communities. It means recognizing that economic justice is inseparable from racial justice. For individuals, especially those with privilege and power, it means using your voice and platform to advocate for change. It means being willing to have uncomfortable conversations about race, gender, and equity. It means recognizing that when we lift up those who have been most marginalized, we all benefit. The work of the NCNW shows us what's possible when communities organize around economic justice. Their nationwide campaigns around voter engagement, economic literacy, and coalition building across generations have already shown measurable results. This is the kind of sustained, strategic action that can begin to close these persistent gaps. In the soft girl era, we recognize that for many Black women, the journey to softness first requires addressing these hard economic realities: the ability to rest, to prioritize self care, to step back from constant grinding. These aren't just personal choices, they're privileges afforded by economic security. When you're losing $1 million over your career due to systemic inequity, the luxury of softness can feel impossibly distant. This is why economic justice must be central to any conversation about wellness and self care for Black women. We cannot separate the personal from the political, the individual from the systemic. True softness requires both inner work and outer change. As we conclude today, I want to leave you with this: the $1 million gap isn't an accident. It's not a quirk of statistics. It's the predictable outcome of systems designed to extract maximum value from Black women's labor while returning minimum compensation. It is, in essence, a heist, a theft happening in broad daylight, justified by myths about meritocracy and individual responsibility. So I ask you, what will you do with this knowledge? How will you use your voice, your influence, your power to disrupt this systematic theft? Will you examine compensation practices in your organization? Will you advocate for transparency around pay? Will you support organizations fighting for economic justice? Will you have difficult conversations about whose labor we value and why? The $1 million gap won't close itself. It will take all of us working together persistently, courageously to create the change we need. And it starts with rejecting the comfortable lie that education and hard work alone are enough. It starts with demanding systemic change. It starts with accountability, it starts with action. The time for polite conversations about diversity is over. The time for bold action on equity is now. Our collective future depends on it. Thank you.